Hi there, I'm Dr. Dudek-Brannan, and welcome to the presentation. In this presentation, we are going to be talking about how K-12 clinicians are supporting their students in all areas, academic, social, emotional, vocational, through executive functioning support. So if you are a speech-language pathologist, social worker, counselor, psychologist, or really any other special service provider who is supporting K-12 kids, and you want to know how you can support your students' mental health, their academic growth, as well as their social relationships, you are in the right place. So we are going to get started with some housekeeping things, and then we're going to dive into the presentation. A couple quick housekeeping things before we get started. This presentation is going to go about 90 minutes. If you have questions, you can type them in the chat box. Next, make sure that you have a good internet connection and that you have all other tabs closed so that you can have a good streaming experience. If you get disconnected, you can go back to the link that you used to join and come back into the room. So now let's get started. So who is this for? This is for pediatric therapists, educators, and related service personnel. So social workers, speech pathologists, psychologists, counselors, OTs, other special ed professionals, anyone who is working with kids, who is working on some specific skill area and is focused on supporting them academically, socially, or functionally. It's particularly relevant to the school settings, but if you are in a private practice or outpatient setting, there's a chance that you are working closely with the school team, so it could be relevant to you as well. Now let's talk about why you're really here. So this is for you if you are working with students or clients in a pull-out setting and you're not seeing generalization. So this could be through a number of skills. So maybe you are working on a skill in therapy and you're seeing good progress, and then the student's parents or the student's teachers are saying, well, we're not seeing them carry it over to this other setting. So maybe your students don't know how to apply the skill to a real life context. It's also for you if you're working on social skills specifically and you're not seeing good generalization and motivation. This is a common area that comes up where I hear a lot of people saying that they're not seeing good carryover. So if you're working on this, you know that you should be supporting students' social emotional development, but you want an approach that is evidence-based, but also neurodiversity affirming. It's also for you if you have students who experience a lot of anxiety about new experiences, who are easily overwhelmed. Maybe this is resulting in a number of different behaviors, emotional outbursts, refusal, task avoidance, poor work completion, negative social experience, school avoidance, among other factors that result from students being afraid to approach certain situations. It's for you if you have students who constantly lose things, who don't understand directions, have a lot of missing assignments, and who struggle with transitions. Maybe you've tried visuals, checklists, and other organizers, and they still can't keep up in class, they still can't organize their things, and they still struggle when they're asked to transition from one activity to another, especially when they're going from something that is preferred to something that is not preferred. If you have students who struggle with emotional regulation and tend to overreact, be inflexible, get stuck on thoughts, struggle to read the room, both in class or in social situations or other functional situations, maybe in the home environment, maybe they have problems making and keeping friends, they misinterpret actions of others or how their own actions are perceived by others. And finally, this is for you if you know you should be proactively supporting mental health, academic performance, and social skills with your services so that students can thrive as adults, but you're not sure how to make that happen. And if you know you should be focusing on executive functioning, but you're not sure where to start, what your role is, or how to make an impact. And I say spoiler alert because you probably noticed that a lot of those things that I've mentioned have to do with weak executive functioning skills. So my goals for today, or my presentation objectives, are to show you why talk therapy falls short for many kids experiencing anxiety, and why executive functioning support can be the missing link when you have kids who are going to therapy but are still very anxious in a number of situations. I'll also share how to improve student social skills and emotional regulation when behavior management and social skills groups aren't working, and why executive functioning should be part of every school leadership initiatives, and how you can take the lead on your team to make it happen, and how you can do it even if you aren't in an official leadership position. My financial disclaimer is I own a company called Dr. Karen LLC, and I'm able to provide free trainings such as this one because I also offer paid trainings and resources for clinicians, educators, and caregivers from which I earn income. And I will be mentioning one of my programs at the end of this presentation. So before I go on, let me share a little bit about who I am and why I'm even sharing this with you. So I am Dr. Karen, and I help K-12 therapists design interventions that support language, literacy, and executive functioning. And I do this by helping them be better leaders. I'm a licensed SLP. I have a doctorate in special ed and my special ed director license, as well as an assistive technology graduate certificate. And I am the founder of a successful startup focused on K-12 professional development. So that is why I'm doing this right now, because my company focuses on supporting clinicians. I spent 14 years in the school systems as an SLP, and I saw a need for a better system for language and literacy support. So that, of course, included executive functioning as well. And that eventually led me to launching my business in 2015, where I focus on mentoring clinicians and helping them revamp their systems for providing interventions in the area of language, literacy, executive functioning, as well as helping them work better with their teams. The reason that I am focused on leadership and executive functioning is that when I was initially starting my business and I was very much focused on language and literacy, I realized that I was helping people be more confident in delivering direct therapy. So people knew what to do when they had a student or a group of students in front of them. But this was just part of the problem, because many of them, a lot of times when they got clear on what they should actually be doing in therapy, when they got clear about what effective intervention should look like, they realized that their therapy lesson planning was just part of the problem. Many of them still felt disempowered and unable to make the impact that they wanted because of other issues in their facilities. And as a result, their career satisfaction was suffering. They often felt underutilized, and they felt like they weren't helping their students in the way that they deserve to be helped. They also often felt like they weren't valued and appreciated as a member of their team. And many of them initially felt like these issues were systemic and there was nothing that they could do about them. But I knew from my own experiences that change is possible, because when I was in the school systems, but I knew change was possible because I'd taken on various administrative projects when I was in the school systems as an SLP. And I got a lot of initiatives pushed forward, even when I wasn't officially an administrator. And I knew that clinicians had more influence than they realized. They just needed clarity on how to make changes happen and what initiatives, skills, and strategies they can use to get things moving. So if you are working in the school systems or with the school systems and you feel like your students are not getting the support that they need, you feel powerless to make changes to the system, what I want to share with you is that we need to think about this from the bigger picture. We need to think about not just what we struggle with as therapists in our own disciplines, but we need to think about the school systems as a whole and your building as a whole, as well as the other people who are working in the system, because many of the challenges that K-12 therapists face can be addressed by addressing the things that teachers and school leaders are concerned about. There's actually some common patterns that people don't necessarily realize. There's one key area that we can focus on that checks all the boxes that can address a lot of the pain points that people are struggling with so that we can all band together. And if you're a therapist, you're uniquely qualified to take the lead in this area so you can really make an impact on your facility, on your school culture, on the system as a whole, as well as the students that you're serving. So let's think about some of the things that teachers might struggle with. Obviously, these are not going to be exhaustive lists, but these are some of the big ones that have popped up for me. So they're thinking about developing their content area expertise for whatever they're teaching. They are often concerned about having time to plan and support all students. A lot of times they have big classes and they feel like they can't give students the attention that they need. They also have to deal with classroom management and behavior because they are focusing on helping so many students at once. And they need to think about how to differentiate their instruction so that they're challenging the students who need to be challenged, so that they're delivering the curriculum for the students who are on grade level, and so that they are differentiating for students who might need some other additional supports. And they need support from administration and support staff like us in order to make all of these things happen. Now, the administrators, on the other hand, are looking at this from a bird's eye view. You may have experienced this if you have ever interacted with a school administrator. A lot of times they have a lot of people complaining about a lot of different things in a lot of different areas. So some of the bigger picture things that they might be thinking about are student engagement in their entire student body, community outreach, getting parents engaged, school culture as a whole. And again, looking at things from a bird's eye view. A lot of times when we are complaining about something or bringing a concern to them that is specific to our department, we need to help them to see how it fits into the bigger picture. Otherwise, we're not going to make much headway. I've also been talking to a lot of administrators lately, and one of their big concerns now is behavior and mental health. They often get behavioral referrals or students sent down to their offices. And then now mental health is something that's on a lot of people's radar. So it's something that is part of a school-wide initiatives. And then, of course, they have to deal with things like funding and the school report card as well. So they do have to focus on those academic skills. Therapists and service providers, these things should be very familiar to you. A lot of times we're thinking about caseload and workload. We're thinking about how to fit in the educational model versus the medical model. A lot of people who are working in the schools came from more of a medical model background. And so trying to fit into the school systems and making our role work in the schools can be a challenge. We're thinking about generalization. We're working on things in therapy. We're trying to figure out how to help our students transfer those things over to the classroom and to home. Instead of thinking about content area expertise, we're thinking about our clinical expertise. So specific intervention strategies, evaluation techniques, protocols. And then also many clinicians that I talk to want to feel valued and included on the school teams. A lot of times they feel like they're working in silos and their expertise is not fully valued and understood. And many times they feel like their clinical skills are being underutilized and their students are not getting the support that they need across the day in order to generalize those skills. So when it comes to actually making a bigger impact on our caseload and supporting students across the day, a lot of times therapists have one idea of what needs to happen, and a teacher might have another idea. A lot of clinicians complain that teachers don't want to implement the strategies that they're recommending in their classrooms, but many times it's because it's not tied directly to a pain point that the teacher is having. And so we need to shift our thinking about this and frame it a little bit differently so that it is something that can address everybody's needs, because that way everyone can band together as a united front to support students instead of us working on our own initiatives. Because the best way to get what you want is to help other people get what they want. And I'm going to show you how we can do that today, how we can help everyone get what they want as far as support and giving students what they need as well. Because when it comes down to making a change, we can't do our jobs in silos. We need to find a common solution so that we can band together. Now, the good news is that as a person with clinical expertise, you are in a unique position to make this happen. And today I'm going to show you the one area that can impact all others that can really address everyone's pain points. So again, here are those 3 shifts that we want to make and those 3 things that we want to think about. We want to shift to thinking about resilience and independence. And here we're going to learn why certain kids continue to experience anxiety even though they're going to therapy. And this can cause all sorts of behavior problems that can impact students across the board, as well as limit their ability to learn skills and become more independent and successful. Then shift 2 is about communication and connection. We're going to learn why students struggle behaviorally and socially, despite getting classroom management and social skills interventions. Again, classroom management is something that teachers care about, and social skills is something that really everyone cares about and something that therapists are often addressing. Finally, we're going to talk about clinical leadership, shifting to thinking of yourself as a leader. and why executive functioning should be a K-12 leadership initiative, and how you as a school clinician can help make this happen. So let's start with shift number 1, which is why certain kids continue to experience anxiety even though they're going to therapy. I want to make it clear here that I'm not making a blanket statement that therapy is bad and is never necessary. There are many times that it is. I am talking about when kids have persistent anxiety and it's not going away, and they're talking about their feelings in therapy, they're discussing feelings words, and they're still not able to get through those challenging situations. You're still seeing a lot of task avoidance and behaviors and anxiousness when they are experiencing learning curves. So this is a huge problem, and that's why mental health and anxiety is on the radar of a lot of school leaders. Between 2016 and 2019, for example, around 8.7% of kids ranging from ages 13 to 17 had a diagnosis of ADHD, and 7.8% had an anxiety diagnosis. And I can add to this that autism diagnoses have also significantly increased in the last 20 years. But despite specific diagnoses, the need for mental health continues in the school-age populations. And here's what you need to know as a therapist. For many kids, executive dysfunction is the cause of anxiety. So solutions that neglect this area aren't likely to work for them. This doesn't mean that there aren't things that can be addressed in a traditional talk therapy setting, but if you have anxiety that is resulting from executive dysfunction, you need to work on executive functioning skills. Simply talking through things in a separate setting is not going to fully address the problem. So in order to understand why this is the case and how we can start intervening, we need to first define what executive functioning is. Executive functioning skills allow us to self-regulate and engage in goal-directed behavior. They allow us to think ahead and make plans by predicting what might happen, to regulate emotions and control impulses, to problem solve without needing explicit directions and someone to handhold and walk you through things, to adapt to changes in routines or unplanned events, to come up with multiple options for working through situations, so being able to have that plan B, to self-monitor and make adjustments to plans with the end goal in mind, so realizing when you're off track and readjusting, to break complex tasks down into steps so that you know where to start, estimate how long a task may take and what steps to take to get to the end goal, to read the room, adapt behavior accordingly, know how to adjust based on what's going on and how people are responding and what's happening, or to be able to filter relevant versus irrelevant information while you're working towards your end goal. Now, when you don't have strong executive functioning skills, new or challenging experiences will feel very stressful due to weak future thinking, episodic memory, and past failures. So if you have a hard time thinking about the future, planning ahead, envisioning what something might look like, what steps to take you need to get there, and everything feels very uncertain because you can't visualize yourself doing the steps, and you can't visualize yourself being successful with the end goal or what that end goal and those steps even are, it's going to be hard for you to be successful. So that means that you might tend to struggle with certain situations, and those past negative experiences are going to be things that make you even more anxious. Additionally, if you have weak episodic memory, that is your ability to take information from the past and use it to plan for the future. Maybe you've had certain experiences that are related to the new experience coming up, but if you're not able to take that past information and apply it to the future, it's going to be hard for you to envision what it might feel like and to be able to be successful. And that's going to make you very anxious. So take the discomfort that you feel when something is unfamiliar and multiply it. It's going to be even worse if you have executive dysfunction. So as a result, if you have weak executive functioning skills, you tend to experience very strong emotions and low frustration tolerance because you have a difficult time regulating your emotions. And it's easy to get frustrated because it's hard to imagine what success feels like. It's hard to motivate yourself to move forward through those challenging situations. As a result, there is high task avoidance. And as a result of the task avoidance, there is increased and persisting anxiety because many times the only way to actually build the skills is to experience whatever the challenge is. That is the only way that you're going to build the skills needed to be successful in the situation, as well as practice those skills that are going to build future thinking and episodic memory. When we experience new challenges and diverse experience, that's going to increase our competence with those situations, increase our confidence, and improve our self-image. So kids need to really see it to believe it. They need to experience success so they have evidence that it's possible. This is only possible if they do the thing. It's not possible if we're just sitting around talking about it in therapy. So while therapy can be a component in certain situations, it's not enough to truly address the anxiety if it results from executive dysfunction. Therapy can prime kids for future challenges and help them process past events, but this alone will not give kids opportunities to problem solve in real time. This can only happen by having real life experiences. So this is where a lot of the intervention needs to happen. So I wanted to share a quick case study before we went on to the second shift. And actually, I am this case study. So I am actually not neurotypical. I had a lot of sensory issues growing up, and I had a lot of difficulties with anxiety. So obviously, here's a picture of me as an adult. I have done a lot of different experiences, and I'm pretty adventurous, but I didn't always used to be. So I did talk therapy. I remember being taken to therapy in kindergarten, and what they said is that I was sensitive to change. But the thing is that I didn't actually get better after talking to the therapist. And yes, I did see therapists on and off to help with this, but it wasn't the in-person therapy that actually made the difference. It was the strategies that happened outside of the therapy. So I am living proof that this is possible. I was a shy, awkward introvert, and my mom was constantly allowing me to have those experiences, of course, with assistance. But now, I'm running a business. I am publicly posting videos online. I have a career focused on communication. And also with the sensory issues, I used to have a hard time with just even wearing my hair in a ponytail or wearing certain clothes and certain textures. And now I do all sorts of things. I go hiking, I go skiing. I'm in all sorts of activities that require me to have these various sensory experiences. And again, that flexibility and that exposure is what helped me through that. I've also seen the same thing happen with my students. This is why a lot of times there are things you can do to prep and front load, but then the real experience has to happen. Perfect example of this is how a lot of kids are allowed to go to a school and have a tour before they actually start school. But then in order to actually get acquainted to school, they have to go to school. So this is something that happens over and over again with our students. We have to remember that, yes, we can prep them through therapy or some kind of structured situation, but then we have to support them through the real situation. So now that we've talked about the relationship between anxiety and executive functioning, let's talk about communication and connection. So not only do some students continue to feel anxious despite going to therapy, a lot of students struggle behaviorally and socially despite classroom management being implemented or despite social skills interventions. And many times that includes things like adult-led social skills groups. So let's talk about why that happens. So let's talk about the classroom management things first. A lot of times there are things like sticker charts or other rewards and punishments, which, yes, consequences do need to be a part of a child's life. But if we're strictly thinking about reward and punishment, that is not going to be enough if executive dysfunction exists, because you can't reward a child into using skills they don't have. So for example, I don't know how to do calculus. Doesn't matter how many cookies you promise me, I'm not going to be able to do it because I don't have the skills to do it. Now, if I am working through it and someone's helping me and I need a little motivation and someone is giving me the support that I need, is the cookie going to help motivate me? Sure, that can be part of this process. If I'm practicing certain skills that I'm emerging at, can I use something to incentivize myself or to at least just provide a little structure or a brain break? Sure, I can do that. But it's not going to work in isolation. I need someone actually teaching me skills in order for that to be an effective part of the intervention. It's not going to work alone. Future thinking and seeing the process or end result is what motivates us to start and persevere through challenging tasks. Motivation and persistence are skills. A lot of times people see them as character traits, but they are skills that we need to learn because they require us to visualize, to plan, and to use skills in order to think about the future, as well as apply information from past events and be able to talk ourselves through situations so that we can self-monitor. Without these skills, we're not going to be able to motivate ourselves no matter what people are promising us. So when we think about some of those classroom management interventions, we want to stop thinking about it strictly as reward and punishment, and we want to think about it as scaffolding and consequences. So yes, there should be consequences. We should have to get our work done before we do things that we like to do, but it has to be done in conjunction with the right support, and it has to be meaningful. This is why sticker charts often don't work, because they're very abstract. They don't mean anything to kids, and kids aren't getting the support that they need in conjunction with the sticker chart for it to really do anything useful. Now let's talk a little bit about social skills and supporting social relationships. So the most common social skills intervention that I see being implemented, especially in the school settings, is adult-led social skills groups. And you probably already know that these result in poor generalization. What we often see is that kids can rattle off rules or lists of appropriate behaviors, but then they don't actually do them in situations. And this is because when you're delivering therapy in more of an academic adult-led situation alone, and when it's delivered outside real-life experiences, it doesn't give kids the opportunity to practice perspective taking and situational awareness. So perspective taking, meaning that we are addressing kids' ability to learn how they're coming across to others or how to understand the intentions of others. And then situational awareness, being able to read all the different cues and pieces of information that are going on. So situational awareness is being able to read the room and situations. And this is really something that needs to be practiced in context. Yes, there are ways that we can prime kids for these specific situations, but we have to give them the opportunity to practice it in real time. Otherwise, they're not going to now know how to apply the skills, and the support needs to happen in real time. So for example, what I like to say is that if I'm a basketball player, I can practice dribbling, and I might be good at dribbling, and that's great, but I'm not going to really know how to play the game unless I go and scrimmage and play basketball. I need to actually take that skill and apply it when there's all kinds of things going on, when there's people trying to steal the ball from me, when I'm trying to dribble down the court, when I'm trying to look at where my team members are, all of those different things. So we need to take those skills and give kids the opportunities to actually apply them in real time. If we don't do this, then kids might be able to rattle off a list of rules or appropriate ways to act, but they don't know what to do with that information, which makes things even more awkward and stressful for them. And it often doesn't work. Sometimes they don't even try to apply it because they can't read the situation and know when to do those things that they've been taught about. Ideally, how intervention should look is that we have priming, which can happen in more of an isolated situation where we're front-loading, role-playing, practicing skills, giving kids information. Then we have the opportunity to practice it in whatever the context is. But the key is that there needs to be support in those real life contexts. We don't just throw kids off the deep end. They need to have support so that they have someone that cues them and reminds them when to apply those strategies. And a lot of times they might get stuck along the way, and we need someone there to provide support and prompting where necessary and gradually fade that prompting so that kids can gradually be more and more independent over time. And yes, there's also a component that can be done in a pull-out situation where we're reviewing and self-evaluating what we did, and that's something that can help build that episodic memory. So we want to think about it in 3 stages. Yes, some of these things can be done in a therapy situation, but the key is that we need those real-life contexts. This is often the missing piece when it comes to these skills and when it comes to executive functioning. I want to share a case study of one of my students who was really struggling at recess, actually. He did have a difficult time with writing assignments as well, but he was having a hard time playing kickball at recess because he was getting very upset because his friends were changing the rules, and he had a hard time understanding that they had to change the rules to condense it so that they could actually get through an entire game in recess. Now, when I found out about this, it was because he was actually coming to therapy right after recess. And the thing is that I had already been doing tons of social skills activities with him to explain how to play games with your peers at recess, but it still didn't work because he didn't have that real life experience. So what I had to do was prep him for that real life experience and figure out exactly where he was struggling. But then I had to actually talk to one of the adults that was at recess with him and talk to some of the assistants and recess monitors so that we could actually give him support during that situation. And then I also had to talk to his teachers so that they could help prime him before he went out to recess so that he wasn't agitated and he knew what to expect. I did do some rehearsal with him in the therapy room, but the main intervention involved actually training other people to work through the situation. Again, it did not result in good generalization when I was just teaching him social rules with me in the therapy room. It had to actually happen in context for him to learn how to do that. So this is one of my favorite case studies. I had a student on my caseload who, when he came into kindergarten, he was not non-speaking, but it was very difficult for him to engage in a conversational exchange or communicate his needs. And I recently just ran into his kindergarten teacher, and she said that she ran into him. He is now in college. He graduated from high school. He was student of the year. And I remember when I actually used to see him when I was covering the high school, he was one of the only students who would say hello to me in the hall and talk with me. And he just made so much progress in the way that we were able to do it, because he had so many needs socially and emotionally. I was not able to do that by sitting with him in a therapy room and teaching him about the rules. What I had to do was plan time to train his teaching assistant, because he had a one-on-one assistant, as well as all the teachers that interacted with him. There were many times when he was having a really hard time transitioning, and I would talk to him about it in therapy, and we would get nowhere. Only way that we were actually able to problem solve was for me to have eyes and ears in context to figure out what was going on. So there were many situations throughout his time in school where I had to have somebody who was trained to know exactly what I was doing with him in therapy so that I could talk to them to figure out, do I need to work on something in therapy, or do I need to train them to do something in the classroom or wherever he's struggling? Many times it was more of a consultation basis rather than me just doing things with him in my sessions. I knew that it could be just as impactful to have a conversation with his teaching assistant and to give her some training as it could be working with him directly. And once I was able to do that, I was able to take the support that I could potentially give him and spread it throughout his entire day. And so this is the concept that you want to think about when you're thinking about leadership. But chances are that there are other students who could benefit from this, who are on your caseload, that could benefit from support in their classrooms if teachers, support staff, and other people who are interacting with kids know how to help. The more people on a multidisciplinary team who are trained in this, the more you can spread the knowledge to the teachers who are interacting with kids. So this brings me to the third shift. You're probably starting to realize that while there are things that we can do in therapy to support independent skills, we're always going to be limited if that's all that we're doing. We need to get the entire team on board so that we can give kids support with executive functioning skills in real life context, so that we can help build the skills that kids need to problem solve on the spot, to read situations, and to push through challenges. That's what's going to help them build motivation, their ability to plan ahead, their ability to self-regulate, and their ability to communicate and build relationships with other people. And this is something that is going to impact them across all settings: academic, social, vocational. It's going to build their resilience. It's going to help them with any other thing that you might be working on in therapy. So really, it should be embedded into everything. So that's why the third shift is why executive functioning support should be a part of all K-12 leadership initiatives and how school clinicians like you can make this happen. Strong executive functioning skills support resilience, adaptability, and independence. Building these skills will help us proactively address mental health, academic, and vocational skills, all which should be key factors in any K-12 leadership initiative. So really, this is relevant to everyone working with kids because it can impact all disciplines, all content areas, all contexts. Even the home setting versus the school setting versus work setting versus, all the different settings, structured versus unstructured in the schools. So problem solving and high-level reasoning, organization and work completion, resilience, persistence, and motivation, impulse control, emotional regulation, social interactions and relationships, planning and strategic thinking, and inferencing and comprehension, especially applied to reading and writing. All things that are going to be important for kids to succeed in school, all things that schools should be thinking about as they prepare kids for adulthood, and things that are going to be helpful for kids in their extracurricular activities as well. Really, executive functioning addresses everyone's challenges. So think about what the teachers want to be able to do. They want to be able to be experts in their content areas. They want to be able to support all students, manage behavior, differentiate instruction. So really, executive functioning checks all the boxes. It's going to impact all of those things because if they have executive functioning supports in place, that's going to help them build the skills that students need in order to perform in that content area. It's going to help them manage behavior and make sure that students get all of the needs that they have met. It's going to help them differentiate instruction for kids that need those executive functioning supports. Many times that is what is holding kids back from performing in the classroom. But the key is that we need support from administrative staff and from support staff like us to actually implement those interventions. So that's why this is a leadership initiative that you can play a part in. With administrators, we're thinking about student engagement, outreach, parent engagement, and culture. And then when we're thinking about behavioral and mental health, it's obviously going to impact those things. Students are going to be more engaged if they have better problem-solving skills, if they're more resilient, and school culture is going to improve if you have better student performance and if kids are mentally healthy. So it's obviously going to support behavioral and mental health, and it is also going to impact academics, which is going to help with the school report card and funding and all the different test scores and those types of things. It's going to impact those things as well. So it does address a lot of the things that administrators are concerned about. And with parent engagement, there are also things that you can put in place to get parents involved if this is a school-wide initiative. And then finally, when we talk about what the therapists want. So if you help all the other people get what they want, it's not only going to help your students generalize skills to those other settings and give the teachers what they need in order to do their jobs well, which is going to help your working relationship with them. It's also going to help their ability to reinforce anything that you do in therapy. And if you have a huge caseload and you have people who are supporting students across the board, it's going to help you be more effective, even if you have a lot of kids on your caseload in limited time. It's going to help you with generalization and help you to understand how you can fit into this process when it comes to navigating your role. It's going to help you to be seen as an expert if you are providing staff with support in this area. That's going to help them solve their problems because, again, the best way to build rapport and be seen as an expert is to help people get what they want. Supporting executive functioning and helping teachers put these supports in place, helping other practitioners put these supports in place is going to position you as a trusted expert. And then you're going to get better results, and that's going to help you feel valued and included. We want to embed executive functioning work into all other mental health and cognitive skills that we address as therapists. So really, no matter what your discipline is, it will be beneficial for you to work on these things, regardless of what specific skills you're working on, whether you're an OT, working on sensory and motor, whether you are an SLP, working on language, or whether you are a social worker and you're working on anxiety and social emotional goals. So really, it's going to impact things across the board. Because we're essentially always using our executive functioning skills, everyone who interacts with school-age kids on a daily basis has the chance to support executive functioning. And not addressing this skill is a huge missed opportunity to support kids and help them be more resilient. The good news is that if your team is not currently doing this effectively, if they're maybe just using a pull-out model and your services are kind of siloed off, the good news is that it only takes one team member to take the lead and start creating a plan for providing executive functioning support. And because you already have clinical expertise, that person can be you. Now, I know that many therapists think that leadership is something extra that we do on top of our clinical responsibilities. However, your clinical skills in your specific discipline, if you're just focusing on your direct treatment, will only get you so far if you don't know how to build relationships, get buy-in, and impact the practices of others on your team. Because your ability to help your students be successful is always going to be limited by the support that they have when they leave your therapy room. And if teachers are on board and implementing executive functioning support, that's going to help them with that generalization. So a key area where we can take the lead is in getting those supports implemented. Another reason why people don't think of themselves as leaders and take the next step to get things pushed forward is because they don't know what they should focus on. I'm telling you that executive functioning is the thing that you should be focusing on when you are leading your team and when you're training others to support kids outside your room. Because we know that these skills can't be effectively addressed in a pull-out model alone, we need to also think about other things that we can be doing to change the habits of others, like coaching, training, co-teaching, other models that we can do in addition to our direct therapy so that we can lead others. That's why making time for leadership is a non-negotiable if you want to truly have an impact on your caseload. And a lot of people think there's no way I'm ever going to have time for that. I promise you it's possible when you have the right system focused on high leverage tasks. If you have this in place, it's possible for you to evolve as a leader without burning yourself out. I have a whole bunch of different tricks and systems that you can use to leverage your time, even if you have a huge caseload. There are many ways that we can create assets and materials that we can share with other people instead of having to train people over and over again. There's all kinds of things that you can do. I want to assure you that leadership is not about your job title. It's about what you do and how you see yourself. Thinking of yourself as a leader will not only help you to be more effective in your current role, it can also set you up for success if you want to advance or make a career pivot. Imagine how amazing it would feel to support the other people on your team, help them to get support in place in their classrooms, help them to address some of those challenges that they are facing, and to have a lasting impact on your school culture, and to know that you were the one that took the initiative and made that happen. And the reason that it's so important to think of yourself as a leader is because we have to think about our services from a broader perspective. We can't just think about a pull-out model. We have to think about other models of providing intervention that change the habits of others, because we know from shift one that certain kids will continue to experience anxiety even though they're going to therapy if they don't have those executive functioning supports. We also know these students are going to struggle behaviorally and socially despite getting classroom management and social skills interventions if they don't have those interventions in place. So again, that is why executive functioning should be a K-12 leadership initiative, and school clinicians can make this happen. And this is because it helps check all those boxes that all of the school personnel are struggling with. Now, a lot of people are hesitant when I say that you can step up and be a leader as a clinician. They think, I don't have time for that, or there's no way that I'm actually going to be able to make anything happen. I'm here to tell you that you can. I've seen what's possible when you have the right systems in place. From my own experiences, as someone who did a lot of leadership projects when I was in the school systems as an SLP, and I've also helped other clinicians do the same in some of the programs that I've created in the areas of language, literacy, and executive functioning. With the right systems in place, when you're clear on what skills you are teaching and what you need to be doing in therapy versus what other people need, That's what helps you get clear on where you need to train people, where you need to do consultations, where you need to create materials and resources to share with other people to save time, and where you need to build relationships and get buy-in and support from administration so that you can make things happen. A lot of times people get really overwhelmed with advocacy because they don't know where to start. They don't know what hill they want to die on. I'm here to tell you, executive functioning is that hill. And when you have the right systems in place, you can make a difference. You can be a leader. You just need the right system that's going to outline exactly how you should spend your time, how you should block out your time. And when you block out your time, what tools and tasks you should be building in those time blocks. Now, I shared a lot with you today, and there's obviously way more to this because I've explained why what is going on right now is not fully helping kids. But getting the supports in place and then having the productivity systems and the leadership skills to be able to make it happen is a whole other thing that is way beyond the scope of this presentation. So now that you know where to focus your time, I could let you go and figure this out for yourself, or I could give you the exact systems and support you need to make this happen. Personally, I vote for option 2, and that's why I've created the School of Clinical Leadership. The School of Clinical Leadership is a year-long program for K-12 clinicians. So if you are a speech pathologist, social worker, counselor, psychologist, OT, PT, or other special service provider, and you want to lead your team in providing executive functioning support that builds your students' resilience and independence, this program is for you. So it's focused on delivering interventions needed to support executive functioning, but I also give you the productivity systems and the leadership skills you need to make it happen. Because what happens with many people is that they understand why they need to support executive functioning and why they need to be training other people, but they have no idea how to block out time to make this feasible for them. That's why I share the productivity systems. And I also show you how to persuade others and get buy-in so that people actually listen to what you're saying. So with this program specifically, as far as how it works, it is not a subscription, but it is a 12-month program because this is a long-term project. It's just, a 12-month program, but you'll have the option to keep going after your 12 months is done. And I imagine that a lot of people will want to do this because this is an ongoing initiative. Now, a lot of programs help you get better at administering therapy or teaching. That's where a lot of people get stuck. Chances are you're probably already a good therapist, but you're going to be limited if you continue to work in a silo. Many programs don't show you how to create real leverage and put yourself in a position where you can create real influence. In order to do that, you have to have the right systems, block out time to focus on the right tasks. And then you also need to know how to actually persuade people and work with people when you're in those situations. So who this is for, again, I mentioned before, social workers, psychologists, speech pathologists, counselors, other special service providers. And if you are already in a leadership position, like you're a coordinator, supervisor, or administrator, you're also welcome to join. And if you're a special ed teacher and you're delivering special ed interventions, this is definitely a fit for you as well, even though I have focused on clinicians for the majority of this presentation. So anybody who is providing specialized support is welcome to join the program. As far as the setting, this is for direct service providers in both clinical and educational settings. I've primarily been focused on the school settings because this is a K-12 initiative. So obviously, if you're a school clinician, this is a fit for you. But if you are in private practice, then you may also be working very closely with the schools. So it could be a fit for you as well. Or if you're already in a leadership or administrative position, or if you're a business owner of some kind and you're doing some consulting services for schools, this could be something that you could use as well. There are 4 pillars in the program that I use to show you what you need to do in order to get these supports in place. We start with service delivery because, as I mentioned, we have to use different models in order to get executive functioning support in place. So that's what I start off with, is by thinking about service delivery different beyond just the pull-out model. And then once we do that, I talk about productivity. You need a plan for actually blocking out the time to make this happen. And that's where I show you those systems. Then once we've blocked out the time, we need to get down to business and learn the specific strategies. So we focus on the evidence-based practices, specifically focused on executive functioning. And yes, other topics may come up in the program that we may discuss, but executive functioning, mental health, resilience, and social emotional skills are the primary focus. So all of those things that are going to support social and academic skills that are going to support vocational success in the future. And then in order to actually make this happen, once you start blocking out the time to use these strategies, you have to be able to persuade people and work with people and change their habits. So that's why we also focus on leadership reform, so that you can have the influence that you want and work with the people that are on your team in a way that is impactful. So now let me talk about what's inside the program. One of the bonus trainings that I recently added is the Dream Career Suite. In the Dream Career Suite, I take you through a series of exercises of self-exploration so that you can figure out how you like to work, who you like to work with, so that you can use that information to go forward and really plan the service delivery effectively. So this is going to help you to think of yourself as a leader. What it's also going to do for you is to help you think bigger as you move forward through this initiative. A lot of people just want to stay put in their position. They just want to think of their role a little bit differently, even though they don't actually want to switch jobs. But a lot of people, once they start to do some of these things, they realize that maybe they are interested in leadership, maybe they are interested in some kind of a side hustle or a career pivot. So this is just going to help you to get clear on how you like to work, whether you want to stay in your current position or whether you do want to shift at some point. A lot of people, once they realize that they can be successful, they become way more confident and they realize that there are other options for them. Some people realize that they can just have more fulfillment in the job that they have. This is going to help you do that and get clear on what you want to do. So it's going to help you create a vision for your ideal career or find ways to be more effective and evolve in the position that you're in now. What this is going to do when you start to think of your role differently is that you're going to get better results with the caseload you have now, but you're also going to simultaneously gain skills and experiences that will move you forward and actually expand your marketability and your ability to do other roles, should that be something you're interested in. Next, we focus on service delivery. So once you get clear on your vision for yourself and your career, we're going to get into the specifics about service delivery. In this masterclass, I'm going to talk about the types of service delivery as well as some key concepts that you can use to actually do them. A lot of people don't do anything besides direct therapy because they don't have time. Here, I'm going to give you the strategies to figure out what you actually need to be doing to train others and spread information with other people on your team, as well as the tools and tactics you need to actually make it happen. You'll uncover new and creative ways to get kids access to more support, and you'll be able to get rid of that feeling of frustration you get when you know kids aren't getting the help that they need. A lot of people think about lesson and therapy planning first, but that way of thinking is actually backwards. In this training, I'll show you how to flip-flop your thinking so that you can use creative options for providing support, which is going to help you amplify the effectiveness of your services. So really, this is about feasibility and actually getting people to implement support in other settings. Next, we have the productivity system. Once you figure out what assets and systems you need to build, you need a productivity system so that you can figure out when you're actually going to do all of these things. A lot of times people don't realize how much time that they're wasting or where they can actually use their time more effectively. And that's why I give you this system. What I do here is I help you to focus on your long-term goal. A lot of times people don't focus on long-term initiatives like this that I'm proposing because they get caught in the weeds and they're putting out immediate fires. Here, I teach you how to block out time so that you stay true to your vision, to your long-term goals, and you don't neglect any immediate fires that do need to be addressed. The productivity systems that I'm going to teach you in this program are going to help you to focus on other skills that are going to support your career growth and make you more effective. This is the exact system that I used when I was getting my doctorate while working full-time, while I was doing my dissertation research, and while I built my business while I was working in the schools. And of course, it's also what I used to take on a number of different leadership projects when I was in the schools, including executive functioning support. So this is the system that you can use to block out time for really any initiative that you're dreaming up. The way that we're using it in this context is to implement those strategies that are going to help train your team in executive functioning, but it can be used really for any dream initiative that you have as well. what I've got on the screen is proof that this works. I was able to build my language and literacy programs while I was working in the schools. This allowed me to make a bigger impact with my work beyond just my direct therapy services, both in my building, in my community, and in the field as a whole, as I've developed additional training programs for professionals. You can use a lot of these same systems when you're developing training materials and resources or doing consultations to coach people along. This will help you to gain control of your time and your schedule, and you'll be able to stop feeling scattered and putting meaningful work on the back burner. A lot of people are using more tactics like just simple calendars and apps and checklists, and that's why they aren't working. You do need some tools and tactics, but you really need to have a whole system that allows you to focus on the end goal and the present, and that's what I give you here. So I'm actually teaching you to build your executive functioning as you're helping your students build their executive functioning. So it's very meta. The next feature of the program is the leadership roundtables. In these roundtables, I go live each month and I present on a specific topic related to leadership and advocacy. These trainings and these roundtables are going to help you to go through specific actions and steps that are going to help you to advocate for your caseload, as well as build specific leadership skills. So this could be things that involve you building relationships with other people, navigating difficult conversations, or just connecting with people so that you can form alliances to get things done. This is going to be key because if you are going to get this put in place, you can't do it alone. Even if you are leading the initiative, you're going to need help from your team. I wanted to share this. It's actually on the sign-up page for the School of Clinical Leadership if you click over to that page. But when I had the right systems in place, I was able to create some amazing collaborations and alliances that helped me to take what I was doing in therapy and amplify it. This is the key to your success. Those relationships I was able to build and those activities that I participated in led to more comprehensive services for my caseload. So even though I had a limited time with my students, I was able to take my clinical expertise and expand it to other people by being creative with how I thought about my role and what I thought of as service delivery. That also led to changes at the building level. Over time, as I trained more and more people, and as I worked with more people and formed more partnerships, more people got on board. It was a process. But once I learned how to do it, I could chip away over time and do it confidently, knowing that I was moving in the right direction. Now that I've left the school, I've been able to record some fantastic interviews with my former colleagues on my podcast and on my YouTube channel, where we're able to talk about and share some of the work that we did together to support students. And this is how you can form those partnerships so that you can band together and pool your resources and move this forward. A lot of people think that if you're going to be a successful teacher or therapist, you need to know all the best interventions and teaching techniques. And these are important, but these will either be limited or enhanced by your ability to communicate with and influence others. Next, we have the evidence-based practices library, and here is where we get into the specifics of executive functioning support. So here is where I teach you the specific strategies that you can do in therapy, as well as what you can train other people to do. I also share information about goals and accommodations, and I also give you some tips and things that you can share with parents as well. This is primarily a training that's going to help you support practitioners in the schools, but parents are really an important part of this process as well. So there are some tools in here that are going to be helpful for you if you want some information and strategies that you can give with parents. Parents play a huge role in executive functioning support because they see kids in functional settings. So if you can get the parents involved, that is ideal. I do give you what you need to do that in this section. So of course, training on specific disciplines and content areas are very important. Occasionally, I may speak on some of those specific areas, especially language and literacy. That is my background. But executive functioning is the primary area of focus because that is the skill that impacts all other skills. It's a non-negotiable thing that needs to be embedded into everything. So that is why that is a primary focus of this program. Next, you will also get access to collaborative work sessions. I love these. They are very simple and effective. And what they are is that there is a Zoom call 3 times a month where you can simply log on and get work done. So that is the frequency that I'm doing right now. I may add more in the future if members like it, but what you get to do is simply show up and log onto a Zoom call and get your work done. You can open up if you want to bounce some ideas around with other people, or you can just sit there and work quietly. But the main thing is that you get this group accountability, and there's a specific time when you can block up time to work on those ongoing projects. You'll be able to have a designated session with group accountability so you can make consistent progress on your important projects, and you'll be able to stop wasting time on distractions and get to work. The main thing here is that there is a specific time that you can block out each week to do this. In addition to the collaborative work sessions, you'll also get access to a members online community. And this is actually not on social media. This is in a private members area where you can ask questions, participate in the roundtables and assignments that I give in those leadership roundtables, as well as just engage with other members of the community. So any support you need, you'll be able to get it in a carefully curated community. As you can see here, it's not hosted on Facebook, so you don't need to get distracted as you're logging in. It's in a place where you can get in and out and get the support that you need. Finally, I offer you a growing list of resources called the Rolodex of Resources. What this is a collection of tools. So there's forums, websites, podcasts, other things that I've gathered up that I've found useful so that you don't have to go searching through the internet. I have curated a list of resources for you so that you can get the information you need. There's all kinds of information in here. There's professional websites, research, really things that are going to support your personal development moving forward and help you to be a more effective leader. This is going to help you be the clinician you want to be now. So if all we did was help you uncover ways to get better support for your caseload and minimize the tasks that suck your time and energy, what would that be worth to you? And if I could help you create more time, which is really an asset that creates all other assets, that is going to free you up to think about those things that you can do to support your students. If all we did was help you take control of your time so you could create space for that more meaningful work and put yourself in a position of influence so that you're respected for your work, what would that be worth for you? And if you're able to finally get the student support that they need, if all this did was help you to create the relationships, resources, and skills you need to make the impact you've always wanted to make and see your students thriving, as well as make a lasting impact on your building culture, what would that be worth to you? Now, I had two choices when I created this program. I could do what's being done in other industries, which is offer a program in the $5,000 to $10,000 range to a small group of people, which is really the range that I've seen a lot of leadership training is in. Or I could consider the needs of this field and make it accessible to as many clinicians as possible. I chose the second option. Many of you chose this path because you thought it would be rewarding and satisfying. What would it be worth to finally be in a position where you could make the difference you've always wanted to make? When we're talking about leadership coaching, executive and leadership coaching in other industries often costs $10,000 or more. And that's also why a lot of my business coaches have told me to charge that much. So obviously, I'm not going to do that. You can join us today in the School of Clinical Leadership. The total value of this program is close to $12,000, but you can join now for 12 payments of $97 or pay in full for $997 for the year. Again, remember, this is a year-long program. It's not a subscription, but a payment plan or paid for a full year at once. We're focused on long-term results and committed coaching and ever-growing resources to support your growth. Of course, if you want to continue with us after the year, there will be an option to continue. But this is a year-long membership because I know that this is a long-term plan, but it is possible for you to make this change this next year. And I want to give you the support that you need to make it happen. So that means you get 12 months access to all program features. And like I said, if you want to keep going after that, that is awesome. There will be an option for you to continue. So if you're not sure if it's for you, we do have a refund policy. If you spend up to 30 days in the program and you decide it's not for you, you can request a refund. School of Clinical Leadership is different than any other program out there because many programs focus on treatment techniques alone. I don't stop there. I'll actually help you to build the productivity habits and leadership skills you need to make lasting changes. Many people get stuck because they can't logistically put these systems into place. I'm here to support you through the entire process. So now you have two choices. You can leave and change nothing and continue to feel disempowered and underutilized and unable to fully support your students' mental health, behavior, and academic skills that are going to set them up for success in adulthood. Or you can join me and put yourself in a position that allows you to fully utilize your skills and have the influence and impact that you want. If you join now and follow the program, you'll have the skills that are going to be the change your building needs. The question won't be if you're going to make an impact with your services. The real question is when. All you need to do to join me in the School of Clinical Leadership is click Join Now. I'm actually offering a special fast action bonus this next week, where you'll get a complimentary 30-minute one-on-one onboarding call with me to get you started in the program and to outline your strategy. When you join, you get the Dream Career Suite that's going to help you uncover how you like to work and how to work in a way that's aligned with your strengths and needs, as well as to help you figure out if you want to stay in your current role or if this initiative is just a stepping stone to your next career opportunity. Then I'll show you how to design services in a way that helps you to figure out exactly what models you need to be using to get executive functioning supports in place. Then, once you've figured that out, I'll give you the productivity system you need to block out the time to make it happen. I'll also give you the leadership training and the leadership roundtables so that you know how to build the relationships and make the impact that you want as you are implementing these strategies. There's the evidence-based practices library, which is going to fully outline all of the techniques that you need to actually put this in place. The collaborative work sessions so that you have that group accountability to stick with your plan. I should mention that during the leadership roundtables and collaborative work sessions, these are also times when you can directly talk to me face-to-face. And then you can also get support from me in the members' online community, which is a private members forum off social media where you can ask questions or get support. Finally, we have the Rolodex of resources, which is an ever-growing list of resources to support your personal development and leadership. All you need to do to join now so that you can learn the framework that you need to deliver the executive functioning support your students need to be resilient, independent adults is click Join Now. There's still 1 week to grab that fast action bonus when you join, which is a special 30-minute onboarding call with me so that we can get you started on the right track. If you have any questions about how the program works, please email me at talktome@drkarenspage.com or stick them in the comments box, and I will be happy to get back to you with any questions that you have. Okay, so I wanted to take just a couple minutes and answer some questions that commonly come up. First one is, when does this program start? How does it work? So your 12-month period in the program starts when you sign up. It's designed to be self-guided, so all trainings are on demand. You can watch and rewatch them at your own pace. The live components of the program are the roundtables and the collaborative work sessions. So those are the things that you can show up to live should you choose to use those features of the program. Those are the places that you're going to be able to interact with me live, in addition to the complimentary one-on-one session if you sign up in the next week. So you'll be able to take advantage of these program features for the duration of the time you're in the program. With the roundtables, those are things that are going to be recorded and put into the members area. So if you can't show up to those live, which are going to be the discussions on leadership and advocacy, those are things that you can watch after the fact and just participate in the members forum. So that's how it works, but really it's self-guided and you start as soon as you're ready. So the other question that I get a lot is, do I provide lesson plans and materials? So the program is really focused on designing service delivery, collaboration, and leadership. There will be some tools that can be adapted to be used during direct therapy sessions specific to executive functioning. So there are going to be some things that you can use, but it's not a program that's focused on a lot of stuff, because I'm teaching strategies that you can use with the materials that you're already using. Another question that I commonly get is this separate from my other courses that I
offer. So if you're an SLP or other professional who's taken my other courses, such as Language Therapy Advanced Foundations, or really anything else in the language therapy suite, this program will complement that program. My courses that relate to executive functioning have been updated for the purpose of this program and are a part of that evidence-based practice section, since that is a key initiative. So this is not going to have overlap with the other programs, but it is going to be complementary. The difference, of course, is that this program is focused on executive functioning and leadership with the entire special ed related service provider team, as opposed to just being people who are focused on language and literacy, even though the things that you're going to be working on in this program are going to help support your students in all academic areas. One of the questions that I often get is, what if I can't get my team on board with providing executive functioning support? So I will say that there is an art and a science to presenting your ideas and persuading others, and it's not something clinicians typically learn in their training. Most people are told that they need to present research and educate others, but often this isn't enough. Of course, we want to be evidence-based, but really we need to focus on building relationships and rapport. That is a long game. That is why this is a year-long program. And a lot of times people can't find the time to do this well or leverage the relationships that they do have. So that is why I am giving you a complete framework that addresses productivity and blocking out time for specific strategies, as well as focusing on leadership and relationship building, and doing that in conjunction with specific training on executive functioning. Another question I get is, what kind of support can I expect from you? So obviously you can engage with other members in the members forum, and that is a way that you're going to be able to get a quick response from me and the online members community. Each month, we'll also have those roundtable sessions where I'll present on a current topic or issue. So if you want to chat with me live, you can show up to those, or you can watch the recordings in the members area. Those are the leadership roundtables. Then there will also be the collaborative work sessions that I do show up to every week. Again, people can just show up and do their work. You don't actually have to say anything. You can just show up and be with the group, but I will be on those calls if you want to directly ask me a question face to face. How long do I get to keep access to everything? So you're going to have access to all program materials for 1 year. During that year, you'll have access to all of these things as long as you're up to date with payments on your payment plans or if you've paid in full. I also get a lot of questions about goal banks. So is there a goal bank? There is a goal bank. So within the executive functioning product suite, there are trainings that will show you a process for writing goals, and that will include examples of how to word goals that can be used on IEPs, but it's not a traditional goal bank that is just kind of a copy paste word for word thing. It's more of a program focused on teaching you how to think about your work differently and have a good process for writing goals. So most traditional goal banks skip that problem solving and thought process. And I don't want to give you resources that will be a crutch. I want you to learn processes that will help you be more effective. So I really focus more on that. However, I do give you some specific examples of how to do that as I'm teaching you those skills. Another question I get is, does this count for CEUs? Because this program is designed for multiple disciplines, the trainings are not CEUs. However, you may still be able to use some of them as part of your certificate renewal for certain licenses you may hold, depending on their requirements. So for example, the American Speech, Language, and Hearing Association will accept hours from non-CEU providers as professional development hours if they provide documentation of attendance. So if you'd like to use some of the trainings within these programs for license renewal, all you need to do is email me. Again, that's talktome@drkarenspeech.com for more information about how you can get that documentation. Okay, now I know I'm going to get a lot of questions about whether this is evidence-based practice and whether this is neurodiversity affirming. So I'm going to address the evidence-based practice question first. So any recommendations on specific treatment techniques will have references cited within the program. Any guest speakers that I have in the program are going to be required to cite research and provide reference lists. So if I do other trainings on career development and entrepreneurship and things like that, obviously, because those aren't direct clinical strategies, there may not be references cited there in the same way, but anything that is clinical related is going to have that evidence cited. And then of course, since we're working with executive functioning, we I know I'm going to get some questions on whether this is neurodiversity affirming. So all of the trainings are informed by the most up-to-date evidence from peer-reviewed research and clinical case study evidence. In other words, they are things that are known to work when it comes to supporting kids in being healthy and independent in supporting their mental health, as well as their independent functioning academic and vocational success, which is really what kids need in order to live happy, healthy lives. So they affirm neurodiversity and that they will help clinicians consider a client's neurological profile, interests, and needs into account, while at the same time teach them strategies that are going to challenge students and help them become resilient and adaptable. So yes, there are times when you're going to be asking students to do things that they don't want to do, because that's how they're going to be able to build those skills that they need to be confident and have a positive self-image. Now, what they are not focused on is making clients appear more neurotypical, or developmental milestones are somewhat taken into account, but that's not the goal. The goal is always better functioning. So an intervention is neurodiversity affirming if it gives the client what they need in order to be successful. And that is what this program will do. I will share that I'm not neurotypical. I'm happy to share my personal experiences where it's relevant, but really this is focused on evidence-based research. So peer-reviewed research, clinical case study evidence for what works. Now, if you have further questions, please feel free to email me at talktome@drkarenspeech.com. I'm happy to answer any questions about whether or not this program is for you or how it works. Now, if you are ready to make a change, if you're ready to help your students to get the support that they need when it comes to resilience and independence, and you're ready to lead your teams in implementing executive functioning supports, and you want the productivity systems and the leadership skills to be able to make it happen so that you can show up for work knowing that you're making a difference, then I invite you to join me in the School of Clinical Leadership. Again, for this next week only, you will get a complimentary 30-minute one-on-one onboarding call if you take the leap and join. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you in the members area.